And thank you all for joining with us today. We are so happy to be able to speak to you face to face. Usually this podcast is this is a pre-record podcast, and usually we don't have a live audience, and you are our live audience, and we're so happy to have a live audience today. And my name is Bill Free, as most of you know, and I serve and share the Living the Non-Dual Understanding podcast, and I am co-hosted here with Susan Telford, who shares the Integrating Spiritual Awakening podcast, and Jackie Greggs, who her theme of the podcast is Come Empty. And then, of course, we have Cyndi Krupp, who brings the podcast Living in Oneness experience. And we're really happy that you guys would take the time out of your schedule to be with us today. And I'm just going to turn this over to Susan. And Susan, where would you want to start with our audience?
So obviously the invitation today was to come and hang out with us for an hour. Thank you very much for listening and watching the podcast that we've done so far. And I wondered whether people perhaps had questions about podcast episodes, maybe a question that arose as you were listening, or whether you wanted to know something about our own spiritual journey, or any questions really that you wanted to ask us. We are open and available here for questions. Cyndi, what would you like to add?
Other than I love us, I do. I love us. I was looking at all the faces of the people here, and I feel like I'm at home. And I feel in a lot of ways like we're sitting around the kitchen table or our living room. And in addition to any questions about what you might have heard or any questions about our own journey, the other thing I'd love to learn from you is what it is you'd like to learn from us. At least I don't know about anybody else, but I don't know what the second half of my podcast look like yet. And I'm very open to having them be created through your asking. So know that every time you ask a question, it's not just for you, it's for all of us. And I'm very much looking forward to hearing what you have to share today. And Rana, I see your hand, but first let's say hello to Jackie, yeah? Hey, Jackie.
Hello, everyone. I'm just excited and looking forward to the conversation.
Good to have you here, all of us, and I love the participation. I also want to say hello to everyone that listens on Buzzsprout or Spotify, Apple Tunes, iTunes, and thank you for being our listening audience. Did I miss anyone, Susan? We have a couple of other
Stitcher.
Yeah. So, hey, everyone, because we're getting, I think we're ranking pretty good for just being 4 months old.
Yes.
We're amazingly, and you guys are doing an awesome job. Thank you for that, and thank you for bringing these amazing guests to this show, because it's a total blast, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, I've really been enjoying it because, you get to learn from others and hear about other people's spiritual journey, what has brought them to this present moment, to even be, a part of an awareness podcast. So it's been really exciting and really fun.
Yeah. Same for all of us.
Well, I think to Rana.
Yeah, let's Rana.
Here
the
we
mic
go.
is all yours. Thanks for putting your hand up.
Hey, everybody. Namaste.
Namaste.
So good to be here. I am enjoying these podcasts so much. Of course, I'm a little biased since, I did one with Cyndi, and I thank everybody for that opportunity. But what I wanted to ask this morning is, I actually know Bill and Cyndi pretty well and have heard your stories before, or a little part of them, but I've never heard anything about what Susan or Jack brought Jackie to this, and the awareness path that we're on. And I'm just so grateful to get to know both of you, all of you. And I love the format of the podcast because that discussion generates so many ideas, and you guys aren't just interviewing, you're part of the discussion and sharing some of your own personal things. And I just wanted to thank you for that because it makes it really intimate. So love to hear about your story, even though we don't have a story. Thank you.
Do you want to go first, Jackie?
No, take it away, Susan.
Very skillfully done. Well, my journey, I suppose, has been one of commitment and running away since I was 16 years old. But most recently, I was a high school teacher, and in 2016 I had a devastating illness, which put me in bed for 6 months and ended the teaching career that I absolutely loved. And to say that I was upset about that is an understatement. I had felt as though I'd found my vocation and I was happy with what I was doing. But at the same time, I was very well aware that there was a calling that I had been ignoring for years. And actually, what I kind of came to realize was that going to be a school teacher was like a shadow calling. It was like the shadow version of what I was really here to do. It was the safe version. It was the socially acceptable version. It was my mother's definition of a proper job. And by grace, I believe, I was divested of all of that in a very dramatic way. And I had really an awakening experience when I was lying in my bed. I wasn't really able to do very much, and I just used to look outside at the trees. And one day I realized that I was being breathed. And because I had thought my whole life had fallen apart, and what was I going to do to fix it? I had this sense that I was being breathed and that there was nothing I needed to do. In fact, the doing was what had caused the problem. And that was really a turning point for me. And I knew at that point that I was not going to run away anymore. I could see where running away had taken me. And shortly after that, I've told this story before, so forgive me if you've heard it before, but I was journaling, very angrily journaling about, I thought I was supposed to be a teacher. I really thought I was meant to be a teacher, and out of my pen came, not a teacher of mathematics, a teacher of God. So I Googled Teachers of God Foundation. I just Googled Teacher of God, and Teachers of God Foundation came up. And I didn't act in that for a little while. I did Lisa's 40 Day. I was kind of like, in the background, but this just wouldn't leave me this write to them. And I thought, I can't write to them. I'm some random woman in Scotland. I can't just write to them. But I did write to them, and subsequently spoke to Bill, who said to me, well, what can you do? And I was like, I don't know. But there was an opening for somebody to project manage what was then the presenter series. I just said, I think I need to work for you. I really think I need to work for you. And that was the beginning really of me actually owning what I was here to do. And, there's been a whole cascade of things that have happened after that, including, as you know, recently becoming an Awakening Together minister. So yeah, that's the short version of my circuitous journey.
That's beautiful hearing that, Susan. So how much time do we have to talk about how I got here? I mean, we got a couple of days, months, what we got? Well, I think it's been a very interesting journey. What has brought me to this place? Um, like many of us, was kind of born and raised in the Christian Baptist religion. And it's so interesting as I look back at it now. I can see where I always had, yeah, there's got to be something else though in the back of my mind. Like, yeah, some things just did not sit well. Um, and I did, and it's just very interesting that I was, then was on a path of New Thought, right? I would say one of the first New Thought people I ever listened to was Marianne Williamson. And now I'm about to truly date myself because I bought a cassette. And I didn't know what she was talking about. I had never heard of A Course in Miracles. I didn't know anything about that. I was born and raised in the South. Like, people don't do well, not at that time. I had never heard anyone talking about A Course in Miracles in Shreveport, Louisiana. Okay, you can't get any further south than that. And so, just I don't know what drew me to that cassette of hers. I don't know what drew me to her teaching, because it was something that I just wasn't familiar with. But my mind just stayed open in a way. And then I got drawn to Dr. Dwayne Dyer, right? And then it's like, oh, okay, this makes more sense than this other stuff that I grew up with. So that just led to other doors opening. And before I knew it, I was listening to Hay House Radio and listening to all of the teachers that were a part of that. And ended up, when I moved to New Jersey, joining a New Thought Center in New Jersey. And that really just like, wow, yes, so this starts within, huh? Okay. Um, Getting on that path, and even not stopping there, because there was something else, right? Just that was really being born, which led me to, the studying that I've done with Awakening Together. Um, and I would also say that this has been a journey of undoing. It's like, even I'm back doing the course again, right? And just a journey of the undoing and letting go of everything that I thought was true about me, and learning the real truth about all of us. So it has certainly been, and I can look back at it all and realize that everything, every part of it that was on that path was a undoing. You have believed something that has been totally untrue about yourself. Lack, limitation, not good enough, I'm bad. All of this is being undone. And now I stand in looking at the truth. And it's such a easier way of living, I would say. And so I would say, it's still blossoming, right? It's still being undone, and it's still a process. And that's led me to be looking at these four beautiful faces that I get to do this with, on a regular basis. And I'm just so grateful, and I couldn't be happier.
Nice. And we are very grateful that you're part of this awareness podcast, Jackie and Susan and Cyndi. And I'm grateful to be part of it myself. And we're really, I mean, this is an unfolding. In my experience, I think we all have different parts of the unfolding experience. It is an undoing, and then it's a journey of being. It's a journey of, for me, it's a journey right now, a journey of noticing, just being present and aware, and quietly seeing the expansive presence of I am, of what I am is, from the is seeing place. And this is and to see all of you, and to hear, we get emails from many of you that are listening to us, that are having awakening experiences. And like Jackie, I had a Christian background, of evangelist kind of I went to school to learn how to evangelize people. And I find great joy in seeing people liberated from the tyranny, from the construct of the body mind that we thought was in charge. And until you leave it alone, it is in charge. And then when you leave it alone, you learn how these obstacles to your true nature, they sort of just they disappear, they dissolve into the nothingness that they rise in, and that requires a pointing. And that's what the Teachers of God Foundation does. That's what our conferences, when we pull in these 25 to 30 speakers, that's what the conferences are for, to help us to see the pointers that are presented in the many different flavors. That's what the Evolve, the Integrated Awakening experience is all about, is to support all of you that are part of those communities, and those of you that are listening on the radio. We're here to support you in your awakening experience, because we want you to have what we know to be the truth. We want you to be liberated from the experience of believing or thinking that you believe that the world is a terrible place, or that it's a place where only suffering occurs. And if you're like the rest of us, which is the whole planet, it seems like there's always a carrot in front of you that you're chasing after, this carrot. And to let the carrot just keep on going and not log into it is a beautiful, liberating thing. And I'm grateful that we're joined by all of these great hosts on the Awareness Podcast, all of you, that we've been inspired to be a voice in the wilderness for everyone else to be liberated, all of you that are listening and watching, to be liberated from the thing that you thought was in charge.
Cyndi, do you want to say a little bit about your path? Because although Ronna knows you, there may be others who are not familiar with your journey.
I have a story. Can I tell a story? I woke up with it this morning. Yeah, since there's no hands raised, because I've been thinking, or I've been sitting with this idea of why fear arises in so many people so often, and why, even though all is well, like when you sit back in it, you can understand that everything always works out. Fear always seems, but I got to solve this problem. So the story I woke up with this morning, it was 2011. It was November 2011. I know that's exactly when it was. I was in Sedona, Arizona, with a man that I had been online dating for like 8 months. This is the first time we met in person. And I had an intense fear of heights. Not heights, but of falling. And we were going to climb what was called Airport Rock, which is the easiest of all the climbs in Arizona. And I got to the side of the rock and I froze, right? I froze. And I was trying to convince him to walk the rock without me. And it was our first fight, you know? And then all of a sudden, around the bend, like you can't make this stuff up, was an older gentleman, probably in his 70s, and a dog on a leash. And he said, "Follow me." Like he came out of nowhere. He said, "Follow me. I have an easier way up." I had no choice, right? I followed him, got to the top of this rock, but I couldn't look. I couldn't look, right? Everything, because I wasn't really afraid of going up. I was afraid of falling down. So here I'm standing in the very center of this rock with a man that I met physically for the first time, an old man and his dog in a leash. And I'm doing one of these, just trying to look up, like, you know, they're all talking about how beautiful, but I can't look over the edge. And I looked up once, and there was a woman in heels, standing on the very edge. So her heels were off so that they could get the shot. And my heart like leaped to my throat. And then I looked down at the dog. I'm just focused on the dog, and the dog starts looking at me. And while he's watching me, he proceeds to chew through his leash. He completely chewed through his leash, and then just got free of his leash, and just sat there and looked at me. And all my fear vanished. And all of a sudden, everything was beautiful. Everything was bright. Everything was gorgeous. 2 hours later, I was in the back hills, leaning against the side of a rock-faced mountain, not being able to go further up because I didn't have the right cleats, but not afraid of falling. And I just didn't even know what happened. And I've never been afraid of falling since. But the key to me for the story when I woke up was just this understanding that we're being taken care of by us, by isness, by oneness. The fear itself was meaningless, and there was no logic to any part of that story. And so there must be somebody here, either here or somebody listening, that needed to hear that story. And that must have been why I woke up with it. But that, in so many ways, you know, I have a story, and I bet you Jackie and I could take up years, and Susan and Bill. But that's, when you ask that question, to me, that's this moment now. You know, just chew through your leash. We got a hand raised. Shall we talk to Kathy? You ready, Kathy?
I am. Can you hear me? Okay, so was on the earlier call today, been following along, I've done the 40 days, been doing this like many of you for a few years. So my question is about pain. My ears perk up when somebody talks about their pain, and we are not our body, we are not our story. So it's almost like there's a part of me, because right now I'm suffering from sciatica, knee, right side, Louise Hay's part is, you know, flexibility, walking forward in life. It's almost like there's a part of me that if I get rid of that pain, then it's proof that, you know, I've made it, or just, you know, so I'm not sure how much is resistance. So any one of you, I appreciate all of you, could talk about a little bit of pain. I would love to hear your story or answer.
I'm gonna begin, because I was in a meeting earlier today, and I ended up leaving just a little bit early because of lower back pain. You know, just the body didn't want to sit any longer. And there was an invitation to believe that the pain was real. Let's put it that way. It felt real. It was pulling my attention. And so I got real quiet, and I just asked, you know, I got real quiet. I paused. Bill and others have taught us to live in the pause, right? And I've also been looking at this idea that our attention creates. So there was this moment of real confusion that I think a lot of people will understand, because the pain seemed real. The pain was real in the body. My attention was continually being pulled into the pain. There was old habits of wanting to understand the pain. And yet all of this work that we've been doing has been asking me not to try to fix anything. So I put my shoes on and I went for a walk and self-talk. And I sunk into this understanding that nothing is Course in Miracles lesson number 25. I'm never upset, or 5. I'm never upset, right? For the reason I think the pain wasn't there. I've been taught never to fix the body, so I knew it wasn't a physical pain. I've also been taught that my focus shouldn't be, my attention will just allow things to grow. So I just walked and I breathed and I relaxed and I felt my feet on the ground and I remembered my truth and the pain eased. To me, a big part of living in the pause and living in this work is letting go of trying to fix so-called problems. And so just that's what worked for me just in the last 2 hours.
Kathy, you mentioned that you're looking for proof that the proof that the elimination of the pain would be the proof, and of course that is the identity of the bodysuit that's made that statement. And I would bring you to the place that is the place of inquiry that's going to ask you, what is it that is aware of the pain? What is it that in you that's aware of the experience of pain?
It's the physical.
What's aware of the physical? Because there's something prior to the pain. Yes. There's something that sees it come and sees it go. Yes.
Yes, the awareness.
Right.
Sensation.
So is that aware? Are you aware right now?
Of the pain?
No,
yes.
Just
am
of
I
this
in awareness?
experience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware right now?
Yes.
And in this awareness experience, does this awareness, does it have a gender?
No.
Does this awareness have an age?
No.
Is this awareness prior to the experience of pain?
Yes.
And is this awareness aware of the experience of pain?
Yes.
And when the pain is not present, is awareness still there?
Yes.
So where's your proof?
Mm-hmm. It's letting go and being in pause and in awareness.
I would suggest that awareness is using that experience of the pain of the bodysuit to self-identify as you pause and you rest in awareness. You're self-realizing the thing that is unchanging, that's always present, always there. And when attention is moved to that place, it moves one to the eternal present that is never in pain. It self-identifies. And that's where our sanctuary is. That's where love is. That's where presence is. That's where peace resides. And so the proof isn't in the bodysuit. The proof is in what is always aware of experience.
Okay, that resonates. Yes. Yeah. So I'm looking in the wrong place.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
looking in that makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen, would you like to unmute yourself?
So I just wanted to mention to Kathy, and I don't want to minimize your pain. I've been there, and it's tough when you're going through it. But I had a Buddhist monk say to me once that pain is a physical sensation with fear attached. And in those instances, what I've learned when I'm going through that is, and this is the part I don't want you to feel like I'm minimizing, there's a certain surrender that takes it away. It's stopping the struggle, stopping the need to change what you're feeling at that moment. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't take medication or whatever else can help, but I actually found that helpful, and maybe you will as well.
As often happens for me, when Cyndi was speaking earlier, and also when the other lady was speaking, a poem came in my mind by David Whyte. I'm going to read this because I feel there's some relevance, but I just feel to read it. It's called The Old Interior Angel. And David Whyte, I don't know if you know, is an English poet. And he wrote this after he was climbing in the Himalayas and was scared to cross a bridge. So, young, male, and immortal as I was, I stopped at the first sight of that broken bridge. The taut cables snapped, and the bridge planks concertinaed into a crazy jumble over the drop, 400 feet to the craggy stream. I sat and watched the wind shiver on the broken planks, as if by looking hard enough and long enough, the lifeline might spontaneously repair itself, but watched in vain. An hour I sat in silence, checking each involuntary movement of the body towards that trembling bridge with a fearful mind and an empathic shake of the head. Finally, facing defeat and about to go back the way I came to meet the others, 3 days round by another pass, enter the old mountain woman with her stooped gait, her dark clothes, and her dung basket clasped to her back. Small feet shuffling for the precious gold-brown fuel for cooking food. Intent on the ground, she glimpsed my feet and looking up said, "Namaste. I greet the God in you." The last syllable held like a song. I inclined my head and clasped my hands to reply, but before I could look up, she turned her lined face and went straight across that shivering chaos of wood and broken steel in one movement. One day the hero sits down, afraid to take another step, and the old interior angel limps slowly in with her no-nonsense compassion and her old secret and goes ahead. Namaste, you say, and follow.
That was beautiful. That was really beautiful.
Very beautiful.
I suppose from that, why that maybe came to my mind was sometimes we don't understand why things are happening. We don't understand the pain that we feel in the body. We don't understand the events that are happening in the world. And yet we have an inner knowing, the old interior angel that just says namaste to it all.
For those that are new to the non-dual teaching, to the understanding of I am, and in a coarse language, I am as God created me. I am spirit is another workbook lesson. It's learning to see those, as you described, like this woman, this character in the poem, learning to see our abilities in the description, in the characters of other people's journey. And many have teachers that go before them. Many of us, all, if not all of us, have had teachers that go before us up the path to the summit of knowing that there must be a better way. I like Jackie had this feeling as an early Christian that something's off. Something seems off here when we're judging gays and there's like this box of rules that you're living your Christian life by, and we're so much better than unbelievers and all of this other nonsense. There was just a little bit too much propaganda for me. And when I would look at gay churches and stuff, I'd go, how can that be an abomination to God? And who's God? Why is God judging them to be an abomination and those kinds of things? And so feeling that something must be off, I started looking for others that had they'd gone further up the mountain than I had gone. As a Christian, Jesus in the New Testament said, the things that I do, you shall do, and more. And I was looking for that. Where's that going to happen? And it showed up for me in A Course in Miracles, and then it began to show up in many other teachings. Ernest Holmes, and then Science of Mind. Then A Course in Miracles came across and it changed everything for me. A Course in Miracles. It started dismantling some of those Christian terms that I'd become familiar with. And then after A Course in Miracles, I found Mooji. Oh my God. He was like the Holy Grail. So I went and lived with him for 3 months, and I spent my time right there with the master, a guru. I wasn't too much akin to a guru, but I loved his teaching. And I sat with hundreds of others on the ground and listened to him teach. It felt like what it must have felt like to be a disciple under Jesus, when you're sitting on the ground in the dirt with 100 or 150 other people listening to Mooji talk about the parables and speak about the parables as someone that knows. And he was at the top of the summit for me and gave a light for me to temporarily put my hope in. And that's what a lot of our guests that come on this broadcast, the Awareness Podcast, and that's what a lot of our teachers that come through the Teachers of God portals, the Pure Presence conferences, Evolve, the Living in Oneness experience, these different experiences that we make available for everyone, is so that we can provide that helping hand, that similar to that woman in the poem, that one that will lead you further up the path to your liberation experience. And so that's our hope, that this broadcast, the Awareness Podcast, is helping you to make it higher up to the summit.
You have a hand raised. Olivia, would you like to unmute?
If I can get my little cursor over there. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Oh, my heart's a little aflutter. This is a little nervous. I recently, in 2020, I made an amends to Christianity, actually. You would bring it up and I would be like that. I had three uncles who were radio evangelists, and the way they treated their families was atrocious. And so I had issues with that. And then there is a Franciscan priest named Richard Rohr who was able to open my mind and my heart. And I don't find it coincidence that this past week, his meditations dealt with non-dual. The whole week was talking about the non-dual relationship and describing that. And that's one of the things I've always appreciated about him. And that's one thing I appreciate about this whole Teachers of God Foundation. And I am still, lesson 62 I have marked. And I read it every day as a reminder, especially remember that in every attack you call upon your own weakness, talking about how I attack myself. And your goal is to find out who you are, having denied your identity by attacking creation and its creator. And that was like, that's an interesting concept. And now you are learning how to remember the truth. And that's what I feel like I am doing the majority of the time, is remembering, because I have forgotten so much. And for close to 19 years, I used, well, not just 19 years, for as long as I can remember, I used outside things, beings, substances, whatever, so that I wouldn't have to remember. And so it's wonderful for me to have the opportunity and to have this book that speaks more to my truth of who I really am and what I really am, and that I need to be reminded, because my go-to is to attack, and my go-to is you're not enough. And so it's wonderful to have these readings to do on a daily basis to remind me. And I'm so grateful for Rana, who has a big part of my being in a program, I will say, that led me to make an amends to Christianity. And I'm so grateful for her friendship that led me here. And it's wonderful to have a friend that I can talk to about these things, and who introduces me. You know, she's a wonderful reminder in my life, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm very grateful that she led me to these other reminders. And but you know, lesson 62, and I don't think it's in the program we have rule 62, which is to not take yourself so seriously. And that this is lesson 62 and that's rule 62. I don't think that's a coincidence either. But it helps me to remember that when I am not open to who I am through my creator and who we all are together as one, that if I'm putting myself down, I'm putting everybody down. And when I'm lifting myself up, I'm lifting everybody up. And that's, you know, that's my purpose. And anyway, I just am very grateful. And I saw there was a chance to maybe jump in, and I knew the fluttering that I was feeling in my chest was my higher power going, yeah, you need to say something. So I just said something. So thank y'all so much for being here. And I love everything that I'm hearing. And I'm very, very grateful. And I'm getting a little weepy. So I'm going to go down. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to take a moment to, I'm getting a little weepy too, to just say thank you for saying yes to allow truth to speak through you so beautifully. And that's probably all I need to say. It's gorgeous. And I'm just so glad that you recognize the fluttering as an opportunity to share truth, as opposed to what some of us do sometimes is misinterpreted as an opportunity to hide. So I'm just so grateful that you shared your light and your beauty and your truth with us. Thank you. Amy's gonna come next. I just have to do this. Hi, Amy.
Hi, everybody.
Bill, I've been in that book club, which has been wonderful on Wednesdays. So I want to thank you so much for creating that. I've been a student of metaphysics for probably 35 years. And it's interesting to hear all of your stories, because I also ended up coming out of college and in the city, in New York City, going to see Eric Butterworth speak at Avery Fisher Hall, who at 18 really opened my eyes to discover the power within you and all of those wonderful books. And then there was speakers going on across the other way in the Upper West Side. There was just a lot going on in that time in the 80s. And here I am, fast forward, I was involved with the School of Practical Philosophy, studying at Advaita Vedanta in New York for 25 years and a teacher there. And now I feel like I've been serving and doing all this good work. And then I got slammed with cancer. And this is a tough question for you, because I feel like, I have an army of angels who are praying for me. And miraculously this week, this doctor connected with me. It's unbelievable, who can actually do surgery on my cancer and take it out. And it's a complete miracle, because he came from Sloan Kettering to my hospital and he's on my plan. And everybody's like, I couldn't go to Sloan Kettering because my insurance wouldn't cover me there. And so there's a lot of, it's like, all my friends are like, it's a miracle. It's a God job. Oh my God, you wanted to go to Sloan Kettering. And now this guy, this special surgeon, is now at your hospital and can do the work. So I do believe in miracles. I'll be able to get off chemo. He'll cut this thing out. It's like, wow, I've been on chemo for a year. It's unbelievable. So connecting with the inner presence is what's so wonderful. And I meditate twice a day and I connect, and I feel like that is the channel to I am. And I do believe that. But then in my mind, I still have the question too, is like, why me? I'm sure you've had this before. Why me? And why did I get this very rare cancer that only one person in New York City can do this operation? Why did I get this cancer? Like, what did I do to deserve this very unique strain that only very few people get in the United States, and very few people can operate on it? So it's the why me. It's a victim-y kind of sound that's in my head. So if any of you can answer that or help me with that, because I still hear it, I still hear it in the background.
As someone who is a survivor of breast cancer, so I've had the experience of having cancer in my body. And I tell you, this might sound cruel.
Go for it. Go for it.
But when I asked that question when I was diagnosed, I also heard, well, why not you? It's kind of a tough, thing to swallow. Like, what do you mean, why not me? I don't want to have this, But why not you? If not you, then who? And it was really kind of a question that Amy was more around helping me to see, one, that it wasn't just about me, but two, that there was something deep within me that knew how to handle this, how to walk. I would say not so much handle it, but walk through it. And I would say just even on the path that I'm on now, I still hear stuff in my head. You really want to be peaceful? What you really want to do is be right. So let's kind of listen to the voice of let's be right. So I say that to say that question that keeps coming up, it's just a question. It's just a thought that comes into your consciousness. One you can look at. Now, I'm not trying to play Dr. Jackie here, but one you can look at and decide that's just a question. That's just a thought, rather. I can either sit here and dwell in it, or I can see that that's just a thought, and I can let it go. Right? Because the alternative is to get really wrapped up in it. And then before you know it, it's going to bring more buddies that look just like it, more thoughts just like it is coming. It's on its way, right? So we all have an opportunity when we get those thoughts that are like, why me? Why this? Whatever. We can step back and just see it for what it is. I just thought just came into my mind right now. Poof. All right, cool. I can let it go and move on to wherever else or whatever else keeps you in peace.
Thank you.
So,
I like that. I like that a lot. I do like that because it is. It's just like when I'm meditating, like the thoughts go by and I go, poof, I don't want to listen to that now. You know, it's like I don't want to tune into that radio station. So that's a good one. That's a good one. It's true. It's just I don't want to give it don't give it more energy than it deserves. Exactly.
You bet.
Exactly.
Keep your God radio station locked in on that station only.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank
You're
you.
more than welcome. I hope that was helpful.
Amy, I'm a little bit jealous that you were able to get to know Eric Butterworth. And if you were under his teaching, you will remember that he would say, the golden key, if you're thinking about your problem, you're not thinking about God. And that's just a sort of, it's a great idea, but it also is a very subtle redirect. Well, if you're being myself, you're in that book study, being myself is living in the I am, having your attention there as the I am presence. You can't have your attention on something else. And the good news for all of us is that we're not these bodysuits. We're not any of the things that these bodysuits experience. And we also can be aware of that and have that experience instead. And what Jesus used to call it is the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is within, and we can have that experience while we're still in these bodysuits, no matter what age they are, as long as we have this understanding. When we begin to have this understanding, we begin to have the things that he pointed to, which is to be in these bodysuits, not of the world, but in the world as awakened beings. And we have this to look forward to. We have consciousness itself, the I am presence that Moses spoke of, that we get to have with this understanding.
Correct. Because in the teaching of the Advaita Vedanta, I'm a follower of Shantananda Saraswati, and so, he always says, I am not this body. It is an instrument for my use. That's his, which is just a beautiful thing because it reminds me of that. I tune into that this body is it's just an instrument for my use. And I was brought here to be in this body now. And then it's going to be like shedding a coat. I mean, it's just going to be that. And then I just move on somewhere else. And yes.
Can I just say one more thing? I'm sorry, Bill, and because it kind of came to me afterwards, and that is, and even when we get those questions, why me? It's very good practice to ask who's asking that. Like, who's asking why me? Because I can feel on the back end of that question loves to take us out of our truth.
Thank you. Truth.
And just a couple words through this body. I've been sitting and watching, and what I see is pure light and wholeness and health. And somehow I have Byron Katie in my head. When I first started listening to Byron Katie a long time ago, she said, you could be a young mother with no money in your pocket, and you were just kicked out of your house, and you're sitting on the curb with your two babies, and you don't know how you're going to feed them. And if you ask yourself, am I okay right now? The answer is always yes. And it reminds me always, am I okay right now? Can I love right now? Yeah. But I got to just tell you, I've been listening and listening to everybody, and all I see when I look in your space right now is just so much beauty. I feel real blessed that you're here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's a delight to be here. And actually, having this disease allowed me to connect with Bill's book class. I mean, I never would have had the time. It's 12 noon on Wednesdays. It allowed me to. That's the beauty of the disease, is that there's some. It's been a year retreat where I've been able to tune into things that I normally could never see. So that's true. That's true. I have to say, there's some beautiful Rupert. I didn't know anything about his teaching at all. So the whole year I've been like doing this teaching alongside other teachings that Dvaita Vedanta, and it's been a very beautiful year. So you see, that's what happens. You know, that's the upside of this. Thank you.
It just occurred to me to ask each of the hosts. It's probably a big question, but just the kind of the first thing that comes. What has been the most transformative part of your journey so far? What understanding or insight, or what just stands out as being a real defining moment? Bill?
My defining moment is awareness. Defining when I realized awareness, I knew something had connected that I was always searching for. Awareness. Awareness is everything. It was 10 years ago when I found it. It's even more today.
Thank you. Jackie?
That is a big question, but I think the moment that I realized that I am not my thoughts was like, what? That moment of realizing that and being able to step back and see thoughts as opposed to really believing that they, were me, that like I didn't know there was a difference, so that moment when it was like, whoa. So every thought, as I watched, and then, having moments to step back and go, so I thought this, but I believe I wasn't good enough. But how about, wait a minute, I thought I was, all this, I actually being able to step back and go, whoa, none of that's true. It's just been thoughts that I've believed. That's been like part of this, like, and to answer your question, that's been the most thing that has just opened the door to now that and having that awareness has been everything. Thank you for asking that.
Thanks, Jackie. Cyndi?
It's changing. Well, the words I put to it are changing all the time. At the moment, what's transforming things for me faster than I could keep track is this understanding that everything creates everything. And Cyndi had nothing to do with it. So when, the kids are having a bad day, or this health problem is happening, or I look at my bank account, this understanding that I've started to like just melt into, that everything creates everything. And Cyndi is just a temporary manifestation of love. Man, the guilt is dripping away faster than it can rise up. It's just fabulous.
Thank you, Cyndi.
And how about you, Susan? You can't get away with it.
Well, for me, was the realization that I'm not Susan, that I'm not that little S self. And so with that, I could stop the self-improvement plan I'd been on for 40 years because I don't have to fix Susan because I'm not her. Susan's just an object of awareness. that was, I kind of had the same reaction as Jackie, like, whoa, what, really? Really? I don't need to do any of that anymore? It's just joyful. Thank you. So I think we have come to the end of our time together. Thank you all so much for coming. It's lovely to see you and lovely to have this format with the four of us together. It's been a real treat. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jackie, Cyndi, Susan. Thank you, listeners. We love you.